Good morning, Ed Larkham here, and this is Simple Human Action, a channel that speaks to the importance of sound money and how it helps promote good governance. Today I wanted to take a break from history and take a quick look at something far more current and visible to all who watch current political events and listen to political leaders, and notice the increasingly duplicitous language used to explain both economic and geopolitical events. The obscurantism is reaching fever pitch. Much of the mainstream media is following along with this narrative particularly closely, and we see increasing evidence of the marginalization of any individuals and media outlets that stray from the narrative. One could be stoic about this and accept that this is the world the way it is. But I choose to be true to those positive and joyful teachings of Nietzsche, and today, if I did not have nihilism, I'd have nothing left to believe in. Actually, I would just like to share some thoughts about the boiling frog metaphor. It seems to be particularly relevant in our world today. The poor frog, placed in a cauldron of cool water, gets a false sense of security about his environment. The cauldron may be equipped with bread and circuses of little insects parading around on the surface of the water. There might even be other amphibians performing in game shows and theatre performances, creating an all-round warm and fuzzy environment. Eventually, though, by the time he realizes he is in danger, along with all of his compatriots, as the temperature rises, he is no longer able to extract himself from the predicament. The idea is somewhat repugnant in every way, but the idea that one may be placed in an ever-increasing state of danger without one's knowledge is a particularly accurate metaphor in describing the predicament in which we now find ourselves. The governments of all Western countries are deeply committed to the expansion of globalization through fiat currency, and have created unprecedented national debts and financial derivatives markets. The fiction of ever-escalating equities markets and housing markets, derivative markets, and now out-of-control price inflation are the early signs of the fact that the deep water in which we now find ourselves is boiling. No one should have any illusions about the coming consequences. The fact that this has been a gradual process that really became inevitable after 1971 does not change in any way the inevitable conclusion. So consider for yourself the aforementioned political leaders who term themselves elites and experts. It's fascinating to notice that these people are very skilled in diverting attention away from the heart of the matter of who is responsible for the problems we face. The boiling water. The national debts are now unmanageable, economies are in recession, and social impoverishment is out of control. Is this an unfortunate symptom of high-minded globalism, or is it an unintended consequence? I will leave that to you to speculate and ruminate upon. But talking about elites and experts, I must very briefly touch on a little bit of history. That is particularly relevant. In 1927, Julian Bender published The Treason of the Intellectuals. Today, it is a little referenced work, for obvious reasons, when one appreciates the highly astute observations he makes. Academia, politicized, becomes intellectual hubris, and a potent weapon. If I may, I would like to share with you a few lines that will illustrate the connection between science and politics. This is from the chapter, The Modern Perfecting of Political Passions. Our age is indeed the age of intellectual organization of political hatreds. It will be one of its chief claims to notice in the moral history of humanity. Ever since these systems have been in existence, they have consisted in establishing for each passion that it is the agent of good in the world, and that its enemy is the genius of evil. But today these passions desire to establish this not only politically, but morally, intellectually, and aesthetically. Anti-Semitism, paganism, socialism, and French monarchism are not only political manifestations. They defend a particular form of morality, of intelligence, of sensibility, of literature, of philosophy, and of artistic conceptions. Our age has introduced two novelties into the theorizing of political passions, by which they have been remarkably intensified. The first is that everyone today claims that his movement is in line with the development of evolution and the profound unrolling of history. All these passions of today, whether they derive from Marx, from Maurus, or from Houston Chamberlain, have discovered a historical law according to which their movement is merely carrying out the spirit of history and therefore must necessarily triumph, while the opposing party is running counter to this spirit and can enjoy only transitory triumph. That is merely the old desire to have fate on one side, but it is put forth in a scientific shape, and this brings us to the second novelty. Today all political ideologies claim to be founded on science, to be the result of precise observation of facts. We all know what self-assurance, what rigidity, what inhumanity are given to these passions today by this claim. On the surface and in the depths, in spatial values and inner strength, political passions have today reached a point of perfection never before known in history. The present age is essentially the age of politics. Well, on that note, I will leave you in peace with the thought of one other appropriate metaphor. It is about the frog and a scorpion on the bank of a river. I like to think that it might be the frog that escaped a cauldron of particularly hot water. The scorpion asks for a lift by the frog to get him across the river to the other side. The frog observes that the scorpion can be particularly dangerous and says that he cannot carry him because he will be stung. "Oh no," says the scorpion, "I promise not to do that because we would both die." Eventually the frog agrees and trusts the scorpion. And sure enough, halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog. As they struggle on the surface, the frog cries to the scorpion, "Why did you sting me? You promised me that you would not. And now we are both going to die." The scorpion replies, "I know I promised, but I am still a scorpion." Well, on that note, thank you for watching, and I hope you will consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button, and I will look forward to chatting with you in the next episode. All we need is simple human action. I'm going to the kitchen and I'm going to make some lemon cupcakes with icing on and little sprinkles all over the top, and then I can share them with everyone I can find, and that will make the world a better place.